everybody, welcome back to another week of Be My Guest. We have another great person on today. We're going to get to her in a short second. But same as always, going to do some housekeeping notes. Love that term about their hotel people. Um, as always, if you like the show, follow me on LinkedIn. Check out the show on my YouTube channel, iPod or iTunes, podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, all that stuff. Like it, share it, comment it. Give me some feedback. I really do appreciate the honest feedback, and a lot of you guys have been giving me that. So thank you very much. And thankfully, a lot of it's been really good. And one of the cool things, and I talk about on this show about having a very open forum and letting anybody come on to the show that really wants to speak and tell their story. And our guest today, Stephanie Ledger, is going to be one of those people who I've never met before this show. I've never talked to her, never knew her. She was able to reach out to me and she saw it online. I actually posted something in the Facebook Hospitality Family Group. And if you're not familiar with that group and you are in hospitality and you have Facebook, I would definitely get on that. It's about 60,000 people strong, all hospitality people from different walks of life, different disciplines, different industries, but they all come together, and I'm part of that, and Stephanie's part of that, and we came together through that. So again, creating that sense of community. I'll dive into that story, how that group came about another day. Maybe we'll even have Sarissa come on, who was the founder of that group. But without further ado, let's bring our guest on today, Stephanie Ledger. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you, David? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on today. And Stephanie, I was saying, we've never met, talked, spoke prior to me posting that message. And that's what's really cool about what I'm trying to do here, is that we can all come together, even if we haven't known each other, right? You're going to be the second person that I've had on the show who I have not met prior to this, but I'm getting a lot of people reaching out wanting to come on. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that. So you're going to really kind of be the litmus test for me, Stephanie, making sure that I can do it properly. So don't be too hard on me.
No, never.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much for being my guest. This is episode number 9 we're filming right now. So we're going to get you up and running the next few weeks, but really looking forward to that. But really, same thing as always, we talk with all of our guests. Give us kind of a background, who you are, what have you done in the hospitality, how did you get involved, and where are you currently?
Yeah, so my name's Stephanie Ledger. I started my hospitality journey. It was actually February 2002. I was still in high school. At the time, I wanted to be a teacher, and I needed extra credits of working with students. And at the time, too, my parents were like, well, you need to go and find a job because the high school activities are a little bit expensive. So I grew up in Naples, Florida, where the Ritz-Carlton is one of the flagship properties for the company. And I went there and interviewed for doing Ritz Kids, a camp counselor working with their students, and came back to my parents and told them I got a job, and they're like, oh, hosting, in the restaurant. And I was like, no, I'm going to go work at the Ritz-Carlton. So that just shows you I'm always a go-getter. And so I enjoyed working at the hotel, and I realized quickly I did not want to work with the children, but fell in love with the hospitality industry immediately, and then it was able to grow at that property in different departments, and then had the opportunity to transfer to New York City and worked in a few of their properties, Ritz-Carlton's up there, and after that wanted to travel, so then started actually working in staffing, providing staffing for the hotels, mainly in housekeeping, and I fell in love also too with just always being on the go and traveling. So from there, I created my own company and was taking on clients, providing training for them, because I did have a year working with Forbes Travel Guide, being the evaluator to hotels, which was a great job that I was able to go all over the country, and then also to in China. And yeah, so I was always really used to just being on the road, and with creating my company and working with the staffing agency. I spent 4 years out living out of my suitcase. Literally, I didn't have an apartment. I was just always on the go from property to property. And when I was on my time off, I would use that time to visit friends or go on vacation myself. And just recently, last year, made a home base for First Rate Hospitality here in Miami, Florida. So really working with the properties locally in South Florida, with training on customer service and doing evaluations to help them get to where they want their level of service to be for the property.
Awesome. I mean, that's a tremendous story. And what I like about that is, you talk about not wanting to be in hospitality originally, which is, I think
Yeah.
we talked about this in the last episode with Chastity. I think a lot of us are like that. We got into it almost out of necessity. I know I'm one of those people, and I fell in love with it the same way. But one thing that's kind of cool about your story is you talk about, building yourself up. And a lot of times these stories are you start off at entry level and you become supervisor, manager, GM, and so forth, but you stay kind of within that realm. You step into staff. You step into Forbes for evaluation. So that's awesome, right? Because you were obviously you're very open-minded. You're very dynamic and open to new possibilities. So how, when you were starting to kind of make those changes, because they are in hospitality, but they are different fields.
Yes.
Did you have any concerns about, man, this may not work out? Did you have any concerns about, I worked in the Ritz-Carlton for so long, maybe its staffing isn't the way to go? What kind of went through your mind with that?
Yeah, so you hear it all the time too in the hospitality industry. It's a small industry, and you never want to burn a bridge. And even though I've been all over the place, I make sure that wherever I am and whatever company and whoever I'm connecting with, that I really take that as a true connection, and you never want to burn that bridge. So then when I was kind of taking the leap into something else, I was like, you know what, at least I know that I can be able to fall back if this isn't going to work out to where I would want it, or I expect it to blossom into my career. So that's what, kind of helped me, knowing that I could always fall back into something, or connect with someone of saying, hey, this is where I am. Do you have anything? And then also too, just, talking with my friends and colleagues, as well as being like, I'm looking into this. Am I crazy? Most of the time, what my friends tell me is, yeah. But, I was like, no, I'm going to do it. I want to try it. I want to be able to say, that I've experienced everything in the hospitality industry. And now, even now too, with, my company and doing the training, when I am training to the employees, it's like, I've been in your shoes. I know what that's like, is, at the front desk, and you're having 200 check-ins and 200 checkouts, and you have to use all of the brand standards, using the guest name, eye contact, smiling, and you're just like, and you're now doing it for 8 hours, 10 hours out of the day, but you still have to provide that warm welcome to each guest. So, doing that training, I understand from even, their point of view of what they're having to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
I mean, you're 100% right. And it's so important that people that are doing that still keep that, obviously, that friendly smile. And even though it's maybe the 200 check-in, it's that guest's firsts, right? So that's really a good mentality to keep. But we're going to put your business on the side for a second, because that has a whole nother level of quote unquote crazy to it, we'll call it. But when you're going to the staffing agency from the Ritz-Carlton and you're going to Forbes, at any point during either of those positions, did you have a moment and say, man, I really shouldn't have done this, and want to go back to Ritz-Carlton or go back to kind of where you felt more comfortable?
Yeah, there was definitely times, when the going gets tough and you're like, oh, wow, it was kind of cushy over, when I was at the Ritz in New York, and now here I'm on the road. I'm by myself all the time. I miss out on happy hour, on friends' birthdays and things like that. It's like, wow, did I really make make the good choice. And I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And you may not know right at that moment if that's the reason why this is happening or what path you ended up taking. And it may take, 2 weeks, it may take a few years for you to realize, wow, that really was great that I have that now on my resume as part of my career, to then, bring me to where I am now.
So with that in mind, because a lot of people right now are having, of course, trouble finding work in the industry, and they're either looking to change industries by choice or by force.
Mm-hmm.
What would be some advice that you may give them if they're feeling the same way in that moment to help push through that?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're, how we met, hospitality family, we're all in the same boat right now of seeing what's going to happen with the hospitality and trying to get the tourism back up. But, if you're trying to take the leap, make sure that you're doing the research, start networking and people that are in that industry so you can really kind of see, what they've gone through or, what their thoughts are, and trying to kind of being able to look at different avenues as well, that you can be able to see, is this the right thing for me? And then, if you do take the leap and you realize, okay, that, that's wasn't for me, it's the, year 2020 that everyone realizes if it, if there is a change on your resume, back then the recruiters would be like, oh, what's going on. But, at least you can say even 5-10 years from now that, hey, I at least tried it. You could, you don't have to play the what if.
And I love that spin on that, right? Because a lot of people, I think, and myself included at times, feel like if I try something and I fail, or I try something and it doesn't work out, or I try something and I don't like it, that it's I won't say degrading, but it's demoralizing to have to admit that and take that step back. And I love the mindset you have of that. Like, hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the same event, but that little mindset switch, I think, opens up a world of possibility.
Exactly.
And that's leads us into your company, right? So your company was, you started your company, First Rate, I'm sorry, it was Experience, right? First Rate Experience.
First Rate Hospitality.
First Rate Hospitality, my apologies. But you're working on providing first rate experiences by training, people within hospitality.
Yeah.
And now you started this company prior to COVID. So
yes.
Again, taking COVID aside for a second, what goes through that mindset? We're talking about taking kind of that leap of faith.
Yeah.
When you have all this different experience and you say, you know what, I'm going to use this for myself, to work for myself, to invest in myself.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's very scary. I personally haven't done it. So what what went into making that decision to take that leap?
It was kind of just an epiphany in a way, is that, I was on the road, I was making so many different connections with different hotel brands, and, also too in the hospitality industry, everyone kind of moves around a lot too, to different cities, to different brands. And then I started getting calls of, saying, hey, on your time off, do you mind actually just coming to our property to doing some one-off trainings, or just do it as a secret shopper. We really wanted to see how our staff is handling certain situations right now. And so I was like, wow, with the, so many people reaching out to me, I was like, I think I can be able to do this full time, and take the leap and starting it as a business, with all the connections that I've had throughout the years. And then also to just word of mouth, and with my experience as well, bringing that to the different properties.
What would you say if I'm someone who does want to start a business, but again, maybe I haven't gotten over that hump? What would you say is the number one thing that helped you take that from a mental standpoint, helped you feel confident enough to actually do it?
It was kind of testing myself, of being like, okay, so if I'm, now I'm the boss, I don't have to clock in or clock out or show up to work, can I really making sure that I can, have the mentality to being able to do this and taking the charge for day to day and getting things done and being the go-getter. And so that's also too what I was kind of taking while I was still working, is to being able to then start doing things as, okay, this is business day, so what am I going to do, to making sure that I'm taking the business to the next step. So this is when my business was just launching. So it's like, okay, what licenses do I need to get? What even creating the name and doing the research, with that as well, to making sure that it can be a legit entity. And so it was those little things, but then also too of even communicating to my friends and my family of being like, hey, do you know anyone else that's has started their business, and what things could they be able to then let me know, so then I can be able to making sure that I'm starting at the foundation as best that I can do.
And that support system, I mean, in all facts of life is so helpful, whether it be starting a business, whether it be just getting through this, whether it be just want to have a nice conversation, right? Having that support system is so valuable.
Absolutely.
And it's great that you had that. So what would you say?
And opening up to your support system, that's a huge thing. Your support system always says, hey, I'm there for you. And you're like, oh, I'm fine. Meanwhile, you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm afraid to reach out. But, for those ones that you feel that you're the closest to, and have that confidence with them, just open up to them. You can open up slowly and kind of seeing their reaction, but it's all up to you to being able to open up and communicate to your support group.
And that's such a great point, Stephanie. Like, you're right. You people may have that support system, but they may not feel comfortable exposing themselves to that support system. And I get it. I mean, trust me, I totally get it from a personal standpoint. So that's something that I'm personally working on, especially through COVID, is being more open to the people around me that really do love and care for me. And it does help. I mean, it really does. I'm not great at it, but as you're starting a business, I have to imagine, and again, we're still talking pre-COVID. There's a whirlwind of emotions, and we're talking about, again, opening up to your support system. But what would you say is the range of emotions that you went through, let's say the first 30, 60, 90 days, as you're really trying to get this thing off the ground?
Yeah. So it's funny. I had a recent conversation with a friend, and it's really like caring for a child. It's just starting, the baby's just born, and you're excited, and then you're starting to go into the terrible twos, and then it's the three dangers, and it's just like that with the business, and talking about the highs and the lows and the stressful moments, and things aren't just going to magically appear if you're not going out there and doing promotion for your business, as well as even the authenticity of your business and providing the service to the level that your clients are expecting. But yeah, it's definitely the highs and the lows. You go through the roller coaster.
And I love the way you said that, because that same roller coaster, I think, is the way a lot of people are feeling right now, whether you're trying to start a business or not, right?
Yeah.
There's people that are listening to this, or people that are seeing this, that don't have any interest in starting a business. They just want to get back into the industry and work, and that's perfectly okay.
Yep.
But we talk about this on No Vacancy a lot, that right now, no matter who you are, no matter what job you want, no matter what your path is, you need to have an entrepreneurial spirit, because it's the days, or at least for the very near future, the days of just putting in an application and getting a call back are probably over for the foreseeable future. Again, we talked on the last episode about there being a really a hiring vacuum that I believe is going to happen once we do get out of this, but that's not yet. So for someone who's not necessarily interested in starting their own business, what of everything you just kind of said, how can they take that entrepreneurial spirit and apply that to their job search?
Yeah, well, because it's also too, if maybe they were a supervisor, and now they want to take themselves to becoming an assistant manager, taking themselves to the next level, and they need to having that same spirit of, I want to take my career further to the next step, or even to from maybe they were at a boutique hotel, a smaller hotel, and now they want to kind of get more experience at a larger resort, or vice versa. They worked for a big box brand, large resort, and now they want to experience more of a smaller lifestyle boutique hotel. But it's the same thing of having that spirit of going after it, and going and catching what you want to be able to do, because it's not like someone's going to call you and saying, hey, I'm so and so from this place, would you like to work here? It's now with the market, it's so saturated with all the other different resumes out there, that it's mostly the recruiters are kind of seeing what comes to them. So you got to be the one that is out there and showing how you can stand out too.
Yeah, and part of that goes into, and you're talking about transitioning from maybe a bigger property to a smaller property, or vice versa. We also talked about this last week with Chastity. It also could be trying out a different department.
Yes.
Right. This is definitely an opportunity for people to dip their toes in the water. So, for example, let's say you've been a front office manager, director of front office for a while, and you want to take a next step, maybe to a GM role, and you may be able to get that. You probably could get that as a director of front office, but you want to have the F&B background because you want to do a bigger resort property with F&B parts to it. This is a great time to say, okay, you know what? I can take that step back. I can go to be a restaurant supervisor. I can go to be a restaurant manager working under the director of F&B to learn that department. Because to your point previously, maybe in the past, if someone's looking at a resume and says, well, why did you go from director of front office to supervisor at a restaurant? It probably throws up a little bit of a red flag. Well, now it doesn't. I mean, you can easily explain that. You can say, hey, listen, I lost my job to COVID. That was the first job I could get. And I want to try out F&B. Here I am. So a lot of opportunity to that entrepreneurial mindset to challenge yourself and grow within the industry.
Absolutely. And I've had that same conversation with multiple director of HRs of, because for me, very early on in my career, since I was also still young and still going to school, I wanted to making sure that I was able to see in all different areas of the hotel. So it was, I started off on food and beverage because after I left Ritz Kids, doing the serving or hostessing, and then went on to serving. And then from there went into front desk. And, in order to then taking more on to like a director of rooms position, you need to also to have housekeeping. And so then I, went into there. And so then, every time that I was transferring even to a different property, or even within the same property, the director of HR was always like, well, you were just here. But, for me, I was like, okay, I've experienced it. I've mastered it. I'm ready to go to the next thing and challenge myself as well, to being able to get further into my career.
That's awesome. I mean, that's such an awesome story. And again, we kind of talk about this on several episodes, but the future of the industry for employment, again, for at least the foreseeable future, is going to be these multi-type roles. It's not going to be as streamlined as it was in 2019, where you're working front desk and you're working front desk and you're working front desk. You're going to have to be, especially from the mid-level manager standpoint, be able to touch different departments.
Yes. Yeah. And it's, we're always in the hotel industry multitasking, and now even more is going to be multitasking and taking on more, departments, or even more positions, like from a front desk supervisor now maybe doing multiple things, prior than what they were doing.
Absolutely. So your company's, again, started before COVID. It's going well. You're having great success. Everyone's, really bringing you in to do this training because people are flush with revenue. It's great. Then March happens.
Yeah.
What happens to First Rate Hospitality?
Well, definitely March was an interesting month. Being here in Miami, we're just getting over Super Bowl, so it's been a busy few months. Also, too, this is high season time for us getting ready with spring break.
Mhm.
So working with my clients here locally, it was great going. To them, providing the training, and leaving a property and saying, okay, I'll see you next week. And then 2 days later, we get the notice for the county that we're basically in lockdown, and no more events are happening, and hotels are now trying to figure out, are they staying open, are they closing, because of travel. And so, it was pretty much at a standstill of just waiting to see what is going to happen. And so, if a few weeks, it was kind of, like, okay, let's wait and see. This, sucks, basically, of, what's happening to our industry. And then, it was fortunate enough too, with my business being established in 2017, to being able to get, assistance through the PPP, and different assistances that was happening here locally for businesses, to making sure of staying afloat. But also too, it all goes back to of how I established the business, to making sure that I had all my T's crossed and I's dotted. So when it was coming to for example, with the PPP, being able to showing them all the paperwork that they needed to have. And then also too, throughout the years, of making sure that you're putting your some of your funds too towards the savings as well, because especially too, you don't know when the next business or the next client may come, and so, making sure that you're establishing that early on, to then when it comes like times like these that are unforeseen, that you can be able to using those funds to helping for the business to be able to stay afloat. And so so it took a few weeks of kind of just waiting and seeing, and kind of those downtimes that you're like, oh, what do I go back to working in a hotel? Is this a sign that's saying not to be having the company? Or how other people are also too looking into different industries. Do I look into training with different industries? All of those things kind of really looking. And so then, a lot of people have been talking about how are you going to pivot your business, and so for me, what I did is I ended up now doing trainings online. So, with my clients, that same training that I would be doing on property, now I can be able to provide it for them. It's interactive. It's, not just listening to me ramble on
Right.
a video, but making sure that it's the same questions I would ask them in testing, so then they can still be able to get that same training on property. So it's been a crazy few months now, pre-COVID, during COVID, this transition of waiting to see what's going to happen, as especially here in Miami, as we're getting ready to see what season looks like us for this upcoming year.
So what's going through your mind as all this is happening? Because the thing that hit me hardest is everything happened so fast, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I went from being in February at my hotel, we were up 145,000 to budget on February 29th, I think it was a leap year, to being out of a job in 3 weeks. I mean, it all just happened so fast. So
Yeah.
as this is all transpiring and you're getting calls and you're getting shutdowns and people are probably canceling,
Yes.
what's going through your mind as this is happening?
At first it was kind of like, is it just me? Is it just like what's happening here? But then I started, reaching out to my network and seeing, hey, what's going on in New York? What are you're noticing? And then, even out west in California and Louisiana, all of my friends. And then it kind of just turned out to being, okay, well, you know what? we now are starting to get that, this is taking a hit in the hospitality industry, but let's still be connected, and, just having Zoom calls of just, laughing about times that, when we used to work together, or, oh, remember, when this guest would check in a funny story. And then also to being each other's support system, as well, of just, checking in. Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. Everything okay? Have you, received news? You went from furlough. Are you now on the layoff? And just kind of keeping that communication with my network. And I even have a few friends too that, they've had their, was starting off with their businesses too. And, kind of talking to them, to reassuring each other that, hey, we're all actually in this together. And it's not just you.
And it goes back to, you said it a couple of times there, that support system, however it may be. And that's one of the reasons I even started this show, was to be a system of support for people, because all of this can feel very isolating. You really hit it on the head. Is it just me? Is it just is it me this is happening to? Is it only me? Even though we all know it's not, doesn't mean it doesn't feel that way. Especially if you're applying to positions and you're getting rejection after rejection after rejection, and you're not getting called back from your property, but you see people are getting called back and other hotels are open. You're like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so important to know it's not just you.
Yeah. And you could have, the most glamorous, resume, and and I'm sure in the audience, there's a lot of people that have this years of experience, and it's still hard to being able to trying to find work at this time, especially based upon the city that you're living in. And just trying to, keep a positive mindset during these times, and, really holding on to, your support group, and even the simple things of going out for a walk, or, finding the things that, different hobbies that used to have to work, so many hours at the hotel, and now you have some extra time, but trying to now using this time to re-find your passions as well.
So what are some things that you have done during this time, talking about hobbies and finding passions, to keep your spirits up, to keep yourself going? Because you do have a company to run, and your company is built on providing first-class service.
Yeah.
So did you pick up a new hobby? Did you venture back into something you kind of forgot or let go of for a little bit? What have you done?
I would have to say, well, one was definitely reconnecting with friends, because before we were always all working, and it was kind of just like a Facebook on each other's status. And now really having the time to being able to have a conversation with friends, which has been good. But then also to just trying to take more outdoor activities. Living in the Sunshine State, that it is hot, but you're able to do a lot of different things. So I was taking up running, and then I realized that I definitely don't like running. And so now it's been more of bicycling, and exploring also to Miami. I did grow up in Naples, so I've been to Miami a few times, but I never really haven't explored it like a local. So that's been kind of nice of kind of seeing the different neighborhoods here in Miami. So because I love traveling, but it's like traveling in your own hometown, which has been pretty cool. But mostly just trying to stay outside as much as I can, because especially when you're inside, it can get a little crazy.
Yes, definitely walls can close in very fast, it feels like. And I love what you're talking about, what you're doing, which is reconnecting with friends, just going out for a bike ride, just exploring your hometown.
Yeah.
Because we talked last week with Chastity about something very similar, about picking up hobbies, and that was advice that she gave. And she showed us some really amazing, I can't think of what the term is now. She basically makes blankets and pillows and croquet. Is it croquet? Maybe not croquet. That's a game.
Crocheting?
Crocheting. There you go. All right. So thank you for the assist there.
Crocheting for
See,
a husband.
first rate hospitality right there. There, she just showed it. But we're talking. She's doing some really amazing things. But we were talking about. Listen, it doesn't have to be that intricate, right? It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
that detailed. It could be something as simple as just reconnecting with a friend, or just going and seeing your hometown from a different viewpoint, or just more
Yeah.
detailed when you're not rushing around. So I want to take a step back when you're talking about the challenge of finding a position, because there's so many job seekers out there.
Yeah.
And I spoke last week with Chastity about this, where I applied for a position. I got a call back, didn't make it past the initial interview. And I just, for a question, I just said, hey, what could I have done better?
Mm-hmm.
And they literally said, you were a finalist, but we had people apply with 10 years more experience than you. And it was simply down to that. And I'll be honest, I was upset. I get it. I wasn't upset at the company. They actually treated me very well, and they were very open and honest with me. So I can't ask for more.
Yeah.
But it hurt to say, man, I was there. I have what it takes, but there's just so many more people that have what it takes as well,
Yes.
and have been doing it for longer. And that's been the defining difference. So one, I had to rely on my support system to get over that. But two, that goes back to what we were originally talking about, which is having that entrepreneurial mindset to applying for positions.
Yeah.
So you're a business owner.
Yeah.
If you were hiring somebody, what could a prospective candidate do to stand out?
Well, it's asking those questions, using different scenarios. During this time period, what did you do? Did you?
What could they even do to even get the interview in the first place, to make it through the clutter?
I would have to say, reaching out in the like social or LinkedIn, saying, hi, this is so and so. Feel free to check out my page. So they're telling me to check them out. So they're being able to prove that, hey, this is the experience that I have. I've checked out your social media. So like mine, if you look on, one thing that I've noticed that I need to work on is marketing with my social media on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And so it's like using those kind of things of, hey, I've looked into your company. I see what you're doing. I can be able to provide this benefit to you. So that kind of intrigues, the business owner, being like, oh, wow, I never, knew that, this link wasn't working on the website, or this is a new trend now that's happening in the service industry, or for a new hotel that's opening. So then it kind of intrigues of being like, oh, let me find out more. And then that also too shows that they're a go-getter too, of that they're going to want to help you get even more business as well.
I could not have said that better myself. I mean, that right there. That's why Stephanie has her business, because that's an entrepreneurial mindset. That's researching your goal, researching your target audience per se, going to them with value, and that is going to stand out immensely more than just hitting a button on a H Careers or whatever website. You still have to do that, but then take that extra step. That's the extra step that will get you to stand out. That's the entrepreneurial mindset that we're talking about when we talk about being an entrepreneur to find a position. Exactly. That's it right there.
Yeah. And even you have to get over your fears. There's tons of fears that I had too with opening a business. A, I'm a woman, and then B, also too, I sound like I'm 12.
I like it. I honestly like it. It's energetic.
So, it's, those different things, it's kind of, being like, okay, but also too, no one has the resume that I have, and no one has the resume that you have, or even in the audience. And so, when it comes to business, they're hiring you based upon your experience and what you are able to offer to the company to elevate them to the next level. So, those like little fears that I had back then, now I've gotten over them, and I realized that they were stupid, but at the same time, everyone has their own little fears. Maybe they may say, oh, I only have 5 years of experience in the hospitality industry, but you know what, that 5 experience could be at one of the premier properties in the country, or even a property that their rev par is astronomical for the city that they're in.
Right.
So it's things like that. You can't think that just because of something that I'm not going to get it, but you have to go out there and try. And just like asking for the feedback, well, okay, thank you, I appreciate the time for taking my interview, but can you give me the feedback of why I didn't make it to the next level, or why you decided to go with a different candidate over myself, and asking that information, so then you can take that to being able to then work on, maybe it was it just so happened to be then of the years, but now, okay, let me tweak my verbiage on my resume and my experience to making sure that what I have done is standing out.
That's amazing advice. And listen, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, listen to it again. I think I said that last week for Chastity as well, but listen to it again. Rewind this back and listen to that again, because that is so important. Everything that Stephanie just said over the last 5 minutes or so that's it. Like, that is it.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, coming up on time here, but we're talking a lot about people that are looking for positions, right? And people that are out of work. But there are still people that are working, and the people that are working are working on very short staffs. They're taking on other responsibilities they haven't had to take on before, as we spoke about. They're working long hours. They're working long days, multiple days, 6-7 days a week type thing.
Yeah.
As someone who trains hospitality people, what would you tell those people that are kind of feeling that burnout? How can they reset themselves when they don't maybe have that time, or feel they have that time, but also have to keep that positive experience flowing?
Yeah. It helps a lot too with the leadership, of it being able to understand, okay, what, I can only have X amount of staff in my department. So it really starts there first, of, using those morning meetings, or those the huddles, of being able to engage with your staff, and make it also too lighthearted at times too. Yes, there's things that you need to go over in those morning meetings, providing, like in housekeeping, how many check-ins, checkouts, different standards that may be changing, especially too, that, you're trying to get out a lot of things out that, the guests may touch multiple times, like collateral and things. So things are always evolving, especially right now, but also too, making sure as a leader that you're engaging with your staff as well, asking them personal questions. How's everything, with your kids, or how's your significant other doing if they're in the industry too, and really being able to using things that you've picked up on, of knowing your employees and reaching out to them. So it really starts first with the leadership being able to do that for their department, because even the leader themselves, there's probably burnt out too, because they're having to to being able to now cover maybe multiple departments when they were only having just one department. But really trying to make things a little bit lighthearted during those morning meetings. And then as the staff, now the employee that is having to work those long hours, doing multiple different tasks, hearing it from their leader, I need this, I need that, why did you do this? But then also to being able to just taking time, just 5 minutes. I know that's a lot to being able to ask, and the craziness during your 50 check-ins that are happening. But look back at even your comment cards that you've received maybe prior to COVID, looking at those things that give you the reminder of how much you have the passion of working in the hospitality industry. Also to communicate with your other colleagues. You're all in it together, and trying to make kind of a lighthearted as well, while having to walk maybe 20 rooms of seeing if they're ready, or where housekeeping's at if you're at the front desk.
Mhm.
But for me, what I've done in the past at times where I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't the industry for me. But then I look back at, the different comments, or even the employee recognition,
Mhm.
of saying, hey, thank you so much for helping me out. And it's kind of like, oh, wow, I really do have that passion in the hospitality industry.
What would you tell somebody? You talk about the impact of leadership, but as you mentioned, they're burned out as well. They're doing a lot of work. And we talked with a couple GMs about that. If a person, whether they're mid-level manager, whether they're line level, if they're not feeling that support that you just mentioned from leadership, how would you recommend that they get that point across to their boss?
Yeah, first you want you want to be able to have a conversation with your leader, to kind of talking about your concerns, and it's almost like the hamburger effect, where it's kind of like a positive, a negative, a positive. So you want to say, like, I understand the circumstances that we are under. However, and then providing, what you're running into of the different opportunities. And then at the end, providing a way that you feel that it may be able to assist the situation being better. Providing a solution instead of just being a negative Nancy, because,
Mm.
from a leader, they're going to just seeing that, what, you're just, being negative, and that you're not, wanting to being able to help the situation. And so, being able to providing some different solutions, because you, as an employee, you're the one that's there, front of the line, that's handling the guest, and it might be the guest complaints, it may be the steps of service, and you're seeing, wow, it's taking me extra steps to being able to do this check-in, where what, we could be able to tie two steps together, or why is this step even part of it, because of the new regulations, or things like that. But being able to then talk to your leader, and providing different ideas and solutions to make the service better for the guest, but also too for you as the employee.
Again, could not have said that better myself. So I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Stephanie, again, amazing, amazing content. So I'm going to give you the full screen right now. Tell us how people can find you. Tell us about First Rate Hospitality, and where can people get some of that training?
Yeah, absolutely. So sorry I don't have a fun background here. This is usually my training green screen, but Stephanie Ledger, First Rate Hospitality. You can reach me on LinkedIn. Also, too, for social media, First Rate Hospitality on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn company page. And then also to just firstratehospitality.com. And always looking forward to feedback as well, from other entrepreneurs that may have different suggestions too, while looking at my sites as well.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you being my
Yes,
guest, and I look forward to staying in contact with you as we develop our, professional relationship.
yes. We're over the hump now of the first meet.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks so much, Stephanie.
Absolutely. Thank you, David.
What a great, great conversation that was. And again, a lot of the theme was taking that entrepreneurial mindset to either your job search or to starting a business of your own. But we didn't touch on this in the show, but it's also true for people that are still working. If you want to be able to, I get it, people are burned out, people are already working overload. But if you have the opportunity and you have the ability to, and again, when I say ability, your mental health comes first. But if you can be an entrepreneur in that mindset and go to your leader, go to your GM, go to whoever it is and say, hey, can I try this? Can I take on this role? You can really expand yourself right now in a number of ways, so that when opportunities do come back, you will be in a better position to take that next step. Just a thought, again, mental health first and foremost. So if you're already feeling burned out, you're already feeling overextended, I wouldn't do that personally, because you don't want to, one, hurt yourself. Two, you don't want to not do a good job when you're asked to take on a role. So you know yourself, trust yourself. But if you do have that ability, it's definitely a good time to take that mindset to people that are still working, as well as people that are looking. So again, thank you all for being my guest. Same thing. Check me out on iTunes, Google Play, connect with me on LinkedIn, YouTube, share, like, comment, give me some feedback, reach out to me to join. LinkedIn.com/IN/DMIGNANO. Also on Facebook. Join Hospitality Family. Great group to be a part of. Other than that, we'll be back next week with another great episode. Thank you all for your time.